skin health is very important.
You know, we've always heard this, right? Indian skin is different, Indian skin is special, but nobody breaks it down. You know, my friend is using that and you gave her this, why can't I use that? And I'm like, because you're not your friend.
She's looking better than me.
And I'm like, you're not your friend, that's why it doesn't suit you. Acne is actually a disease. There's actually a bacterial infection 99% of the time.
What are you using for your skin? It's glowing.
To lighten naturally is not possible.
Don't you think we get sun tan rather than sunburn because we have a thick skin again? And I'll say I use Fixderma product.
Why not?
Whether the skin is
Why
glowing
not?
or not.
Why
Yes.
not? You're happy with the way you look. You actually release all the good hormones, right?
The happy
And
hormones.
exactly. I've actually diagnosed cancer in my patients because of their skin condition.
And they misguide people. That's the
That's
sad
the
part
sad.
is that.
I really hope that our government works on that. One lady refused to breastfeed her child because she was so depressed about her skin. She had acne during pregnancy.
There's nothing natural. It's all chemical. Our body is made of chemical.
I actually did a presentation in the World Congress of Dermatology in 2015 for which I got an award. Yeah.
I've heard people have started eating a lot of tomatoes and stuff
So,
like that.
People need to understand that you can't eat retinoid. What?
That's how
This
it's
happened to me too.
Hi, I'm Shaily Mehrotra. Welcome back to my channel, Let's Get Skin Smart with Shaily. Today we have a very interesting guest, Dr. Chaitra Anand. She's a very popular dermatologist. She's an entrepreneur, a mother, a TEDx speaker, whatnot. She has her own skincare brand, SkinQ,
Yeah.
right? And she has 8, 9, 10. How many clinics do you have?
I have 10 Cosmoderma clinics.
Wow. And I think she's a juggler because she balances all the time. Balancing is required.
Always.
And I think we all women are juggling all the time.
Master juggler.
We are master jugglers, right? So, Dr. Chaitra, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Shaily.
So, I've heard you many times speaking about skin color, and you have a product line which actually is meant for Indian skin color, right? So, can you explain us a bit about how Indian color is different, especially the skin color is different?
You know, we've always heard this, right? Indian skin is different, Indian skin is special, but nobody breaks it down. So,
Right.
just to be a little nerdy about it, it really comes down to the color in our skin. The color in our skin is called melanin, right? It's the content of melanin, which is the pigment which gives us color. But it's not just that we have more color, it's actually where the pigment is stored. It's stored in a unit called melanosomes. So
Right.
these are much larger in size compared to other skin types. So Indian skin has larger melanosomes. So we have more pigment that's stored. So it's very irritable. So it can easily lead to hyperpigmentation. So
Right.
that's the first differentiation. The second one is also the thickness of our skin. Like the upper layer of our skin, right? The stratum corneum, as we call it, is actually a lot more layers, very densely packed and compact. So because of this, the way it takes effect with any product or any treatments, etc., is very differentiated.
Right.
So these are the two key differentiators to Indian skin.
Right. And do you think the shades are different in different parts of India? Skin
Of
color?
course,
So
of
what
course.
is the reason? Is it the climate or the...
Genetics, actually. It really comes down, like the color of our skin comes down to our genetic makeup, right? Our DNA
Right.
and stuff. So India is a subcontinent, right, in itself. So if you look at it, I actually did a presentation in the World Congress of Dermatology in 2015 for which I got an award, actually, for talking about Indian subcontinent and various skin types.
Right.
So North India tends to be more on the lighter shade, right? So when we
Right.
think as doctors, we talk about it as Fitzpatrick scale, 1 to 6. Typically, everybody falls between 3 to 6 in Indian skin.
Right.
So up north, in North India, you tend to be more on the 3 side of 3,
Right.
3 to about a 4 minus.
Right.
And that has to do with the genetic makeup because you have more of a Aryan blood coming
Right.
through there. Similarly, you come all the way down to the south, you have a Dravidian strain in our DNA. So we're actually talking Fitzpatrick 4 plus to 6 down in the south. Then if you go towards the east of India, you actually have more of a South Asian strain or
Yes.
Oriental strain,
Yes.
right? And so that again from melanin, they actually start getting in the yellow pigment into their skin. They just don't have melanin, but they also have a little bit more carotene in there and stuff. So it changes. And similarly, you go down to the west of India. West takes a mix of north and the south.
Yes.
So you have an amalgamation, and pretty much between 3 to 5
Right.
Fitzpatrick skin color. And central India is an amalgamation. So that's the variation. And of course, where you are eventually leads to the skin that happens to you.
Right.
But that takes a long period of time.
Right.
What you're born with is really genetics.
Right. So different shades of brown we are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So one more thing, you just mentioned about the thickness of the skin. So don't you think it's good to have a thick skin? I mean, I'm not saying in that way.
No.
But a thicker skin is like, more... it won't get sunburnt easily, or
Today's world, it's good to have a thick skin, honestly. But coming down to the skin facts, right? Thicker skin is great provided your skin is on the dermal thickening, right? You want thicker dermis, which is the living component of the skin.
Right.
In us, the thicker part is the epidermis. In that is the first layer of epidermis, which is the stratum corneum.
Right.
That's all just dead cells. So it's a lot of clumping in there. So that's why our skin actually always tends to have more of a barrier problem, because products don't actually penetrate as well as they're supposed to do. So the formulation needs to be right. And you're a formulator, so you know that to get the penetration, to get that actives to deliver, you really have to do it in the right way.
Agree.
Just putting a bunch of actives.
It has to be active heavy. The products have to be.
But just being bunch of actives doesn't work.
Yeah,
it's how you carry those actives through.
Right.
So that becomes important for Indian skin.
Right.
And where this plays a role is actually in our hydration and moisturization, etc. And because the penetration is poorer, what happens a lot of times, the products tend to sit on the surface of the skin and don't penetrate, so it leads to a lot more clogging.
Okay.
Yeah, so poor absorption and a lot more clogging. So we need to be careful about that.
Right. So don't you think we get sun tan rather than sunburn because we have a thick skin again?
Yeah, no, you're right. The reason is that we have the melanin, right? So that actually gives us like almost a SPF 13. So there's a study way back from 2019 which talked about how melanin gives us a natural sunscreen or a sun protection barrier, and it's almost equal to a SPF 13 that we have, which is why we don't burn easily, but we tan. And tan itself is a chemical damage. Tan is your body or your skin saying, hello, I'm hurt, protect me, repair me, I'm hurt. So the moment you get a tan, it's not a great thing, because the tan is a chemical reaction that your body is doing to safeguard itself from further damage and reactive oxygen species damage or free radical damage.
Yeah.
So that's how tan happens.
Yeah. So friends, we are born with SPF 13, right?
Yeah, but that's not sufficient at all.
That's not sufficient. At least a layer.
That's why we don't burn, and that's why Indians don't wrinkle as much. If you compare us to our Caucasian counterparts, or even like the Oriental skin, Southeast Asian skin, they all get wrinkles at an earlier age, and they always talk about pore quality, etc., like open pores, which is a big thing. For us, it's the sag that's a problem more than wrinkles.
So I think we have spoken about it so many times that people should accept the skin they have, the color they have. But still people are like, getting a lighter shade. So do you think it's achievable? Like you can have lighter tone?
Temporarily, yes. Is it good for you? No, it's not. But, I think it's changing. The outlook is changing from lightening to brightening. Now we're talking more skin quality. We're talking radiance. We're talking glow. We're talking hydrated, soft, plump, luscious. These are the words that's coming into the mainframe. So we'll see that the generational shift is happening, right? I think people in their 50s and 40s still talk more about lightening, but the younger population talk more about skin quality, and they take pride in what they have now, and so we're seeing that change happening. And to lighten naturally is not possible. You can't just lighten yourself naturally. You will need assisted treatments, and you'll have to do that, but it's only temporary. There is no permanent lightening treatment. The only way to do that is to actually chemically damage your pigment cells permanently, and that's scarring.
Agree. And I think many times we've spoken about it, that skin health is very important, right? So people have to understand that be happy the way you are.
Yeah, be happy with what you have. And if
Yeah.
you're not, seek help. There are
Of
amazing
course.
doctors, there are amazing products,
Of
there's
course.
procedures, and you can take corrective therapy to get the best skin possible for you. It's not about wanting someone else's skin or someone else's skin color, etc.
Right.
But to be the best version of you. I think
Right.
that's what we should all work towards, to having the best possible skin. I mean, we all work out, right? Because we want to stay
Right.
fit. We
Right.
take care of our hair, we take care of our nails. Skin is just another extension. It's an end organ, it's the largest organ in our body. The first signs that you're internally unhealthy happens on your skin surface. So I always say, be proud about taking care of your skin and own up to it. We don't have to hide it.
Of
right?
course. Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's like, it's a shield.
Yes.
It covers your whole body, all the
Exactly.
organs. So I think we should take care of it. It's very important.
Totally.
Yeah. So, Doc, summer's around the corner, and tell me more about sunscreen. I think people are thinking that too much is spoken about sunscreen all the time, and I think it's the companies and the brands really pushing them to use sunscreen. But don't you think it's very important for all of us, any color, any shade?
Yeah. Agree with you 110% on that. Summer is here. Oh gosh, we're gonna get hit like sweaty summers, it's heat and all of that, and then that leads to dehydration, so many things. But the first thing is sunscreen. You're right about it. I always tell my patients this, that even if you don't do anything that I tell you, even if you
Use
don't
a
even
sunscreen.
bother about your cleanser, your moisturizer, there's only one product that you must use and that you must invest into. It is a good sunscreen.
Yes.
If you have the right sunscreen and you use it in the right way from a young age, you will protect your skin from 90% of the surface damage that we see.
Absolutely.
The pigmentation, the blotchiness, the uneven skin tone, the break in the collagen on the surface. All of this can be put at bay just by using the right sunscreen from a young age itself. And it's not about, oh, I never used sunscreen, my skin is great. Sure, your skin is great now, but there'll be changes that happen in our 40s and in our 50s, and all of this damage is collective, and then it just sprouts up and we all get melasma. So 95% of Indian women will have melasma at some point in their life.
Yes, agree.
And 15% of men will have melasma, and the rest of them will have something else like a photomelanosis, some sun damage, etc. So hyperpigmentation, blotchy skin is a given for Indian skin, and the way to protect from that is to use the right sunscreen.
And how soon one should start using a sunscreen?
6 months of age.
Wow.
I always tell everybody 0 to 6 months you're a baby, it's okay, but after
Right,
6
right.
months do start the habit of using a sunscreen on
Right.
your baby, because as
Right.
parents we need to use that. Now that doesn't mean that we put mollycoddle them and cover them in sunscreen at home all the time, but whenever they're going to go to the park for a little bit of activity,
You should apply sunscreen.
get sunscreen
Yes,
going.
yes.
And kids play so much sports today, so definitely get that habit of sunscreen for them. Even though we tell them apply 2 to 3 times a day, that's hard, but at least get a
At
longer
least once,
lasting
twice,
once,
yes.
at least once. You'll have
Absolutely.
some amount of protection for up to at least 4 to 6 hours,
Right,
which
right.
is better than nothing. So that is what I always tell patients.
I think skincare, we still need to go a long way.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you compare, in US and Australia and some countries, they use gallons of sunscreen. I mean, they buy a liter or 2 liters of sunscreen and they use it. But I think India, we've just started using sunscreen. And already the media and social media, they have started saying that companies are really pushing people to use sunscreen. But they are not getting it, how important it is for the skin.
Social media, it can be good, it can be bad, right? And I think today influencers have more weight than doctors have sometimes. It doesn't matter that we went to school and studied for this for years together. But what I want to say about it is that, the Caucasian population have a problem with skin cancer.
Right.
So that's why there's so much more about sunscreen, right? And they've taken to it. Even there, the adaptability of sunscreen is only 60%. Even though they use gallons of sunscreen, the consumption is one of the highest in the world. Only 60% of the population are still using sunscreen correctly. That's
Right.
why melanoma is the huge cancer for them, right? And it's not great to have it. For Indians, it's not cancer per se. It's more of a skin burn
Right.
and
Right.
hyperpigmentation.
Right.
And
Right.
people tend to regret it later in their life.
Yes,
Because you
yes.
don't see it today, right? And you're going to see it a few
Right.
years down. And
Right.
that time you're like, oh, I should have used that sunscreen.
Right.
And, retrospect, everything looks great, but you have to use it. And all of this stuff about pushing sunscreen, yes, we need to push sunscreen. Better to push a sunscreen than to push a moisturizer or a serum, because it actually does something. It's protecting you from free radical
And it's
damage.
creating awareness, actually. It's not bad.
It is. And you
Right?
have to, right? When the market is so young, it's so nascent, and there's so much bad data out there, it's very important for respectable companies who have responsibility towards giving the right information.
I have seen Indians, especially, we actually see our sales going up and down. Humid climate, it starts raining, it's cold. People just stop using sunscreen again.
True.
They think when the sun is out and harsh and screaming at them, you should use the sunscreen.
The fact is that, a rainy day, when it's very cloudy, only about 20% of the UV rays are blocked. You still get 80% of the ultraviolet radiation coming at you. So it doesn't matter, rain, shine, whatever, you need that sunscreen. I always tell my patients, the only time you're not going to need it is if you're a vampire living in a dungeon. Otherwise, you're always going to need a sunscreen. And even more so when you're doing activities like if you're skiing, right? Or if you're on the beach, because the reflection of the snow or of the sand is way more. And when you get into higher altitudes, hiking, trekking, you definitely need it more. So sunscreen every day, all the time.
So have you been to Myanmar?
No, I haven't.
So you will be surprised to see that people, both men and women, they use tangka, it's called.
Okay.
It's a mix of kaolin.
Okay, kaolin
clay.
Yeah.
So they use the purified clay and they use the round patches they make on the cheeks, and they go to office like that.
Yes.
So you can understand how, the awareness is so much there.
Yeah.
They are not using the sunscreen, but they are using a skin barrier.
Because the clay is nothing but a barrier, right?
Absolutely,
And nothing's going to grow because it's so dense.
Yeah.
And they need that. At that high altitude with that sun, they need something more than just a regular sunscreen. They're going to need sunscreen which is meant for performance, like performance sunscreens, right? So they're definitely using kaolin clay. Sometimes the old wisdom works well.
Yes, but I think skincare in India is still, we have to go a long way.
Oh, we're still in kindergarten.
I have said this in many panels and many podcasts that we have just started crawling like a baby,
We are.
So we have to go a long way.
Oh, yes.
People really abroad, they really invest in skincare. They give so much time to skincare and they understand its importance.
Yeah, and they also research onto it and they make an informed decision about it. Here, it's more like a quick fix, quick buy.
Yes.
It's like, oh, I saw this, let me buy it now. And then they're like, oh, I didn't feel so good, let me try something else.
Right.
It's more like that. It's more a fad rather than a necessity. When people realize that it's a ritual like brushing your teeth,
Absolutely.
it has to be like brushing your teeth. And I always tell this to my patients, your skincare has to sit next to where your toothbrush, toothpaste, everything sits. So once you finish brushing your teeth at night, know that your layers of moisturizer or whatever you're doing goes on. And in the morning you brush your teeth. If you have your shower, fine, right after the shower put that sunscreen on.
See, it's a process.
Yes.
It's not a destination, right?
Exactly.
It's like a journey.
It is.
And I've also seen many women, especially who have pigmentation, they come very late to a doc.
Of course.
Right? Once it has already spread on their cheeks, it's like a port wine mark.
Not a port wine. Port wine is more like a vascular lesion. This is more like a melasma. So yeah,
dermal melasma is also like
it's
not reversible so much.
No,
right?
not at all, because we can't touch the dermis yet without causing further damage, right? So I always tell my patients, the darker your pigmentation looks, the easier it is to treat. The lighter, the more faded it looks, the deeper in your skin, harder for us to treat, because we have so many barriers to go through to touch that pigment that we may end up irritating the rest of your skin.
So tell me, when is it red alert that you should visit a doc immediately when you see a pigmentation?
I always tell everybody that how you have a health checkup after the age of 25, get into the habit of having an annual skin health checkup. Go see your doctor. Anyway, you do a health checkup. So take your same blood tests, etc. Go see your skin doctor. Just see that you're on the right skincare. You don't need to do a lot of things. You just need to use the right skincare. 4-step regimen, more than enough on a daily basis. You don't need to do 8 steps, 10 steps.
No, of course not. Yeah.
You need to invest into your cleansing routine.
Yes.
You need to invest into something to nourish your barrier. something to protect. Those are the three
Yeah,
fundamentals. If you have a concern, be it acne or pigmentation or dry dehydrated, invest into something to repair it. That's pretty much it. And then later you add something to maybe boost your skin as and when required. It's very simple. Good
I think
skincare.
twice in a year it's good.
Once a year is enough to
Yeah.
start with. If you start once a year at age of 25, that's all you'll need. Till your 40s, mid 40s, you'll have great skin. And again, you'll start seeing the changes in your late 30s for women to mid 40s because of the change with the hormones, right?
Right,
Perimenopause,
right,
menopause.
right,
That's
right.
when you're going to need more concentrated help with your doctor. And of course, you will be doing some procedures, right? Like maybe once every 6 weeks or once in a quarter in your early years. But later, it's more like every 4 weeks because your skin cycle is a 28-day cycle and you want to keep it at 28. You don't want it to become like delayed to 29 and 30,
Right.
because then that skin gets dull, you get that saggy look, you get the poor quality, everything changes. So you keep that 28 days, that skin stays fantastically
And I think
tight.
same applies to acne prone skin also. Like people who have bad acne and then it gets worse and then they start treating it, or sometimes they just ignore it and that it leaves marks and deep acne scars.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't understand it, right? Like acne is actually a disease. There's actually a bacterial infection 99% of the time. It's a bacterial infection. If you have a bacterial infection, you're going to see a doctor, right? So why is it okay that people think, oh, I have acne, I'll try something from my kitchen shelf on this, I'll make this, oh, that person said this, that person, they'll do all of that. And the thing with Indian skin is that if you don't treat it in the right time, it leaves marks. And you'll not believe it, Shaily, most of the kids who I see, even today, they're not so worried about the acne as they're worried about the marks. Because the PIH, post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation,
Yeah.
is so bad.
Yes.
But you nip it in the bud, you don't even have to worry about it. So I always tell everybody, you have acne, 1 or 2 around your periods once a month is okay. But anytime you get more than 2 to 3 in a month, go see the doctor right away. Something is off. It is a sign that something's changing inside your body. It could be that, your hormones are changing, polycystic ovaries, hypothyroidism, stress hormones. It could be your diet, whey protein.
Yeah.
Today everybody's gymming and consuming
Yeah.
whey. Changes with that. You could just have a diet problem, a gut issue, all of this, and it can just get fixed.
I think you just rightly said. So do you believe that gut is our second brain?
Yeah.
And gut is related to everything, all the skin problems.
Of course. I always say inner health, outer glow.
Yes.
That's my
yes.
mantra.
So in fact, many times I have also mentioned that it is a holistic approach. Not only topical applications or popping in pills would help. You have to eat right.
You have to get everything right. It's like
Yeah.
trying to clap with one hand.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
You've got to get your diet, your sleep pattern, your exercise.
right.
Plus, you've got to take care of the external. If you just do the internal, it's not going to help just the external. It'll be in a good condition, but you still got to repair, because a lot of the damage that happens on the external is from external factors.
So can you tell us in simple way how gut is connected to our skin?
Sure. It all comes down to inflammation, right? So inflammation is like, in layman's terms, is like swelling, right? Anything that causes irritation leads to inflammation. So in our gut, if we have acidity, right? Acidity issues, it means that the acid content is already high. It's
Right.
eroding our gut health, which
Right.
means it'll be taking down the good bacteria in our gut. And once that good bacteria goes down, it releases little inflammatory markers in our body, which then causes inflammation across the body. And the first place, anytime anything changes in our body, we'll see the first result is in the skin. A lot of times, actually, you won't believe it, I've actually diagnosed cancer in my patients because of their skin condition. I've said, look, your skin has changed, something's not right, go get a scan done, go get your blood parameters done, and we'll see that things are off. And I've diagnosed liver diseases, I've diagnosed pancreatic problems just by looking at their skin quality. So anything that happens on the outside reflects on the outside. So inflammation. So we talk about water and hydration, right? 2
Right.
to 3 liters. So 2 liters is the minimum, right? And then in summers, it's 3 to 4 because we're sweating. That means we're losing water. And just drinking water is not enough, because
Yeah.
water is extracellular. You need it to go inside your cells. So you actually have to get some electrolytes in there. there. At least for us in South India, tender coconut water every day, 1 a day is what I tell my patients.
Oh, that's amazing actually. Yeah.
If not, I always tell my patients, the first water you drink in the morning, take a rock salt, like Himalayan rock salt or any, just a small little thing, put it in between your teeth or tongue, and then drink the water. So the electrolyte from that salt will charge the water, and when you drink charged water, it goes into your cell and you get intracellular water. Then you'll hydrate from inside.
Amazing. Yeah. Do you think water is enough? I think topical application of a good hydrating cream is also important, right?
Like I said, inside you need the water, right? But on the outside, you're going to need some hydrator. Like summer, we're all going to sit in air conditioning. We can't take the Indian heat anymore. So air conditioning is dehydrating.
Absolutely.
It's going to pull the water from our body.
Right.
So you have to protect it from losing the water. So you need to put a barrier. So you want to use something with like sodium hyaluronate or hyaluronic acid, sodium PCA, ceramides, squalene. All of these should be there, right? If you're going to be in AC, you need more like a barrier. If you're just going to be outdoors, you need more like a softer, like a gel kind of a product.
Right.
That's
Products are very important. I was just wondering, you just mentioned that have water with rock salt and you are done. I was just thinking, what about us?
That's for the internal gut. That's for the gut. So gut was water. Then of course, your colorful food, fruits, etc.
Yes.
All of that, right?
Yes.
Eat healthy and drink water. But on the outside, apply. You have to apply the water equivalent, which is for us basically humectants, right? Hyaluronic acid molecules. So then there's large and small molecules. So based on that, you do it. And with that, it's important to also understand that you have to have a barrier on your skin when you're sitting in air conditioning.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, your natural moisturizing factor, which is already in our skin, it actually breaks up, and then that will dehydrate, and then you'll start feeling that tight feeling, and then you wash your face. There's a tightness to it. That's pure
as if something is pulling in.
Exactly. And it's not a good tightness. It's
right.
dehydration.
No, it's dehydration.
Yeah. So
it's like it's cracking up.
Exactly. Right? That's what it is. So that's very important to make sure that that's taken care of. Along with that, I also say that, people think about hydration. Don't forget the moisture content, because it's oil and water. And oil and water never mix. Because they don't mix, they form a barrier. And Shaily, that we have what's called the acid mantle, or the hydrolipid barrier in our skin. And that comes from the water from our sweat and oil from our oil glands. And they form like a sealant, which is why we don't absorb everything. Otherwise, we'd be like a sponge, right? You put water, we'd expand and stuff. So which is why it has a protective barrier. Now, after 25, the growth hormone in our body stops producing growth hormone. So aging starts at 25, and it's a decline from there onwards. So it's very, yeah. So from there onwards, you have to start taking corrective, reparative.
Right.
Till there, you're just protecting and nourishing. But after 25, you have to start repairing. So what are we repairing? You're repairing your skin barrier, basically, right?
Absolutely.
You want that. So that's when you start with it. If you depending on where you are and what your skin feels like, either a heavier occlusive or a lighter gel. That's what you have to choose. That's very critical for most people. Right?
Tell me any symptom like you can see on your body or your skin where you can understand if something is going inside, something is wrong inside.
Right. Okay. So itching. Right, like a lot of people will say, oh, my skin is very itchy, and suddenly I'm getting hives and breakouts and stuff like that, and stuff like urticaria is something that we call it, but that's a next level. But before that, they start slowly getting suddenly itchy skin and stuff. One, you'll suddenly see when they scratch, the white marks of your nails come on your skin. So that means it's actually very dry. So their oil content has dropped, and then that itchiness doesn't stop right there. It actually gives flare-ups. So then you know that they're not able to heal themselves. And when you know that the healing has dropped, you know that there's some inflammatory condition on the inside. So you look into that and look for that. Then we look at pigment patches. There are different kinds of pigmentation that we get. It's not just a brown pigment. There's grayish hue, bluish hue, etc. So looking at just the area where the pigment is and the quality of the pigment that they've developed, you can actually see if their liver is detoxing or if it's not, and stuff like that.
So simple blood routine is fine.
Yeah.
To understand, right?
Yes.
Everything is fine inside.
Yeah, that's all. Just your regular health checkup.
So you can also get psoriasis or eczema
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Psoriasis and eczema a lot of times is in the genetics itself.
Genetics, right? And it's
stuff.
inherent.
Inherent, but you could have it recessive and it can flare up anytime in your life when you're very stressed out. So if people are undergoing a lot of stress, then that their immunity reduces, and our skin is our first immune barrier.
So mental health is also very important. Right?
Yes, of course.
So it's all
It's
interrelated.
a trifecta, right? It's
Yeah.
your mental health, and then it's your physical health.
And the gut health.
Gut health comes part of physical health to me, and then the other one is your external health. Appearances, because there's this whole brain axis, right? It's called the look axis. So when it's called a feedback mechanism. So when you're looking at yourself in the mirror, you're happy with the way you look, you actually release all the good hormones, right?
The happy hormones.
Exactly. And your brain says, hey, you're looking great, honey. So, you're on top of the world. And then there are days when you just feel like you're not looking
Yes.
it. Automatically, your shoulders will slunge, your attitude goes down, and you see all of that. So there is that visual brain cortex that has that eye to brain link. So visual health is just as important.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Tell us more about visual health.
There was actually one of the studies a few years ago which did a study on people who actually had botulinum toxin. All right, and they did it on people who were actually undergoing depression treatment, and they did the toxin injections and into this frown line, and they observed their body. They did the blood test and they observed how they felt, and they saw that patients who underwent treatment and relaxed this area, because this is a negative vector. When people frown here, it's negative. And so when they saw that that line had vanished, they actually had almost a 35% improvement in their mood and well-being. Similarly, they did another study where they did it on the skin quality. And then they found that people who had better quality of skin outperformed those who had poorer quality of skin, because they always seem to be a little bit more enthusiastic and more proactive than people with poor quality of skin. And there's this other study out of Brown University where it was very interesting. I talk about this a lot of times. So what they did was they took the candidates and they gave CVs of these candidates to a panel of people and made them give markings to these people. So they marked them blinded without seeing the face. Then they made them see the person.
Okay.
And didn't tell them what the CVs were. And then they saw that people who were better looking had better scores than people who were not so great looking. It matters. And from the 6 months of age, a child knows what's beautiful and what's not. It's coded in our DNA. A kid at 6 months of age will gravitate to more beautiful people. So it's now shown that teachers will gravitate towards good-looking kids, and kids will gravitate more towards good-looking teachers.
But isn't it sad? Like people who are not good looking, so what should they do?
What is good looks? If you break it down, Shaily, it's not just the plasticky good looks, right? It also comes from the aura
Like
around
generally
them.
when you talk about good looks, you think that sharp features, fairer complexion, tall person,
That's what it used to think
and
like that.
a great physique.
No,
right?
it's actually about the symmetry of the face and the harmony of the face, actually, and the clarity of the skin. It has nothing to do with the color of the skin. It has to do with even toned skin.
But
fair
that's the
or
general
dark.
perception.
No, that is actually what is there. It doesn't matter if it's fair or dark. Even toned skin is more beautiful. Harmony and synchrony of the features are more beautiful. Pleasant faces and a positive aura is more beautiful. So when you say good looks, it's not just sharp features, it's the entire aura of that person.
Right. And I think world is really shrinking.
Yeah.
And it's like a global village now. So I think there's more acceptance. People are becoming much more inclusive, and they really understand, and they've started respecting each other's skin type, color.
Yes.
Finally. And especially the Gen Z. I think the younger generation is quite receptive,
Yes.
very tolerant. I find them really, they're like the good human being now.
They are actually, and they're very bold. They know what they want and what they don't want. They know their mind. They have a value system which is very differentiated from us, and they're not afraid to voice their opinions.
So, Doc, going back to sunscreen again, because again, summers are coming,
Yeah.
right? You know, if you
And you're
remember
looking nice and bright and sunny.
so tell us give us some 5 sunscreen myths.
All right. One is that I don't step outside, so I don't need a sunscreen. So I
I've
always
heard
tell,
that many times.
right? So I tell people that even the light coming in through the window into your home or your office is enough to affect you. So you need sunscreen. If there's a sun and you can see daylight, you need sunscreen.
You need sunscreen, right?
Yeah. Second one is, my skin is on the darker side, so I don't need sunscreen. A big misconception. So I said the darker your sunscreen, the more sunscreen you're going to need. So
The
that
darker your complexion.
yeah, so that you don't get hyperpigmentation later in your
Right,
life.
right.
Otherwise, you will have blotchy, pigmented skin and it's never going to correct itself. The other one I heard is, my mom has great skin, my grandmom has great skin. They
Yeah, it's in my
never wore
genes.
sunscreen. So why should I wear sunscreen? I'm like, because when they lived, the ozone layer was much better. There was not this much pollution. There was not so much free radical damage. Today, you're exposed to free radical damage everywhere. So you need sunscreen. These are the 3 common ones. The other one I hate is everybody saying, don't use chemical sunscreens. It'll give you cancer. And you're like, really?
So which one is the natural one? They all are like, except the mineral sunscreen. If it's, that's also not possible.
There is no study that has shown that chemical sunscreen leads to cancer. It's all myths. It's really just myths. There's no science-backed evidence about it. And the amount of absorption is only in the superficial layer. And it's not cancer-causing chemicals. At least there's no evidence behind it right now. In fact, not wearing sunscreen is more dangerous than using a chemical sunscreen. And the other one, natural sunscreen.
I'll come to that part. I'll give you a very interesting comparison. Yeah. So people I have seen many times talk about chemical and natural, especially in India.
Yeah.
They are really so obsessed with natural, right? But I always say that there's nothing natural. It's all chemical. Our body is made of chemical. Water is chemical.
Exactly.
Our brain has chemicals.
H2O, 2
Right.
parts of hydrogen, 1 part of oxygen. It's chemical
So
compounds.
I'll give you a very interesting comparison. So I was reading that lab-made diamond and natural diamond. So lab-made diamond is just spreading this, that they are not harming anyone since they are lab-made, right? So they are not mined. They are not blood diamond.
Yeah.
While natural diamonds are blood diamonds. So I was just reading an article that even the lab-made diamonds, they are made out of 3 minerals, which are again mined, right? So how come they are different? The mining goes there too.
Look, it's when you want to market something, you can say whatever because nobody checks what you're saying.
Right.
Which also I want to bring down to Indian skincare industry. Anybody can put any claim without any study.
Oh.
And that is such a pain point. Like people
Ask
are like,
us.
right?
Ask us.
Yeah, you and I. We see that. Your products have clinical data.
Yes.
My products have clinical data because we've invested into actually getting clinical research done in our skin types which we're targeting. Everybody's like, 100% felt so good after applying it. You're like, right, but what did it do to your skin after a few days? Nothing. Why don't we talk about that? So consumer study is not equivalent, or a testimonial is not equivalent to a clinical study. So claims, I think our industry really needs to change and has to have valid claims.
So I have spoken about it before also. So in India, superlative language is allowed.
Yes.
So Southeast Asia, you cannot use a superlative language. In many countries, like you cannot call yourself 100% or number 1 or number 2, or
and
you just
even if you have
to
trials, right? You can't call it.
No.
Like we had to do label changes for our product from India versus US versus
Yes,
GCC
yes.
because so many things are not allowed. But coming down to our myths on sunscreen, those are the myths, right? Natural sunscreen, there is no natural sunscreen other than the melanin you have in your skin, which is SPF 1313.
Yes.
Nothing beyond that.
You had
Somebody told me,
mentioned.
I put a lot of haldi, that's a natural sunscreen. I said, no, it's an antioxidant. It's not a sunscreen. You're only going to look yellow, that's all.
Absolutely. Maybe it will become popular, yellow skin with haldi. Who knows?
Yeah, people will probably think everybody has jaundice or something.
Right. Doc, tell me one thing. You can drink retinol.
No.
Or is it going to give you the similar effect
No,
of retinol?
No, retinol doesn't have a gut receptor. It has a skin receptor. So you actually need to apply your retinol. Drinking it? Not really.
So what do they drink?
Oral
I've seen.
collagen.
No, I mean, in for retinol, I think they have been.
Yeah.
I've heard people have started eating a lot of tomatoes and stuff
So,
like that
you know,
because.
tomato is lycopene, right? Yeah, and then keratin, vitamin A. I mean, vitamin A is not retinol. It's similar family, right? But
Right.
everybody says, "Oh, it's a vitamin A," but it's not.
Right, right.
Retinoid is a different component. So I think people need to understand that you can't eat retinoids. I mean, you can eat beta carotene, but you can't eat a retinoid.
Yeah.
Retinoid, and even if somebody did say something is an oral retinoid, there's no point because there's no proven gut receptor for it. For retinoid to take cognizant and to work on your thing, it needs a receptor, right? For any molecule, and your skin has a retinoid receptor, not your gut.
I've seen many influencers eating a bowl, of full of fruits and veggies,
Yeah.
which has vitamin A, and they are saying that retinol is going inside your body and it's going to reflect on your skin. So I found it a little funny and interesting also.
I think
Like,
these we should treat them as entertainment, and that's what it is. At the end of the day, Instagram is for entertainment.
Absolutely,
YouTube is for
agree.
entertainment.
Agree.
It's not for valid information. For valid information, must go and see their medical practitioner.
Right.
You can see your aesthetic physician, you can see your dermatologist, your plastic surgeon, but see a medical doctor.
Absolutely agree on that, right? And how about collagen?
Well, oral collagen, actually, there was this, in 2020, there was a report, in, I think it was the aesthetic journal, cosmetic dermatology journal, if I'm not mistaken, which actually talked about how hydrolyzed collagen, type 1, type 3, marine origin, if you get the right one, it does make an impact in the hydration of your skin and the collagen content of your skin. It doesn't produce collagen, but it really comes down, if you break it down, it's nothing but amino acids. Right? So if you give amino acids, they're the building blocks for making anything in your body. So then you will actually have better skin quality because of that. So when we think of drinking collagen drinks or mixing collagen powder and having it, you're really just putting down like aminoglycans and amino acids. So that's why it helps, because you're giving nutrition that is required for your body, but you're not actually drinking collagen because it
So
gets broken
what
down.
percentage it can help? Like I have
Around
seen
30.
videos. I have seen videos where they show an old aging skin and then it goes back and it becomes a 25-year-old young skin. So that's going to happen
Only
with a
AI.
bottle of collagen.
Only AI. If we use an AI filter, Shaily, I think we also could do that with collagen drink, with our skincare products. But no, that's never going to happen.
Right.
It improves wherever you are by up to 30% proven, but it's not going to reverse you back to where you were before.
Right. And you must have seen those slimming tablet these TikTok videos
Yes.
where the girl is wearing the same t-shirt, yellow t-shirt,
Yeah.
and she's a fat girl, and then she becomes a very thin girl wearing the same yellow t-shirt.
Yeah.
I think she bought different sizes for her because she knew she's going to become so thin. I mean, some of the videos are so fake, really, and they misguide people. That's the sad part is that.
I really hope that our government works on that whole influencer program and talks about how you have to put disclaimers and labels boldly and stuff, and they have to give more valid information. People should take responsibility for
Yes.
what they're saying and what
Yes.
they're doing.
Yes.
Because you're playing with someone's health, right? At the end of the
Right.
day. You put something like, okay, people will say, oh, it's just OTC products. It's not like a Schedule H drug. Sure, but if you overuse actives in Indian skin and you don't use the right protection, that itself leads to long-lasting skin damage. And that has a mental health component. Shali, I see so many women, right, who are actually traumatized, literally, because
What?
they've developed pigmentation on their skin. If someone's had clear skin their whole life and suddenly they get those patches, we as a society are very critical of each
We
other.
are.
And we're very
We judge.
reactive.
We
Yeah.
judge and we react.
And if you look at all our conversations, it starts like, oh, you're looking slim. Oh, you're looking fit. Oh my God, your skin looks good. Your hair looks good. That's our first conversation opener line. We all comment on each other's
Appearance. Absolutely.
There's no
Yeah.
personal space. You know, when I realized this, my colleagues in the US, I was like lecturing at the American Academy of Dermatology, and then we were in the room and we were all chatting, and I was telling somebody this, and she said, Chai, do you realize that, you know, in US nobody comments on appearances, but Indians always comment? I'm like, why? She's like, you commented on all of us. I said, I complimented all of you. She's like, yeah, but you know, you commented and it was a compliment, but you know,
But you
like this.
noticed, like they
And
don't notice, or maybe that's the first thing we
I
notice.
didn't realize it.
Don't
till
you think we
then.
are conditioned like that when we were
are.
kids?
I mean, it is.
Right?
It is what it is, right? I mean, this is India. This is us. So maybe we need to be a little bit more empathetic to each other. And for these women, tell me that if they go to a family function, people
Oh
will
my
say,
God.
"Arey, kya hai? Daag hai tumhare?" Or somebody will say, "What? You didn't wash your face. You're so dirty." They get all of this, and they don't want to go out. They don't want to go to family functions. They don't want to go out with friends anymore because everybody's commenting and everybody's giving them recipes and everybody's giving them tips on what to apply. And you know, this is what the society is like. So and this is the trauma that people actually go through. I've had, you know, parents reaching out to me saying that, you know, my daughter or my son has acne. We're more worried about the marks. I'm like, why? They're like, oh, because these marks will stay, and then what will my child's future be like? This is the impact nobody talks about. Everybody talks about the superficial side of things, right? Look good,
Right.
feel good, all of
Right.
that. But nobody talks about how much it really affects not just that person who's suffering, but everybody in the vicinity. Like one lady refused to breastfeed her child because she was so depressed about her skin. She had acne during pregnancy, and after pregnancy, her hair was falling, which is natural.
Which it's quite
Yeah.
common. Getting
she-
acne during pregnancy is quite common, and post pregnancy they really flare up.
Yeah, but you know, her mother-in-law was not a very tolerant lady, and they all commented on her and stuff. So she refused to breastfeed the child, and so her husband brought her to me, saying that, you know, this is the condition. Can you please talk to her? Saw her acne. She's refusing to breastfeed the child.
And breastfeed is actually going to help
Yeah.
the acne, because the hormonal, you know, the
Yeah.
balance would come, and it will release her stress.
But you know, this thing. So it goes to another level, and people don't talk about it. Like people in India, we never talk about our problems. We only talk about all the good things, and we'll talk about the problems after the problem is over and the solution
You
is
know what
found.
happened?
What?
That's how
This
we
happened
start.
to me too. That time, long
Yeah,
ago. And
yeah.
you're like, why didn't you talk about it when it was happening?
That's why, you know, now we have started talking about perimenopause,
Yes,
menopause,
yes.
and how it affects your mental health, your physical
Yes.
health, everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, the whole family gets affected because of
Yes.
all this.
Of course.
And people earlier, I don't think they were talking about it. And we, honestly speaking, had any clue that this frozen shoulder,
Yeah.
arthritis, and so many problems are related to perimenopause.
It's true.
And it's how soon it starts.
Yes, in mid 30s you start
Yeah.
perimenopause. By 35 to 38, and by 45 you're headed towards menopause, and nobody talks about it. And when you're going through it and you're researching, and then people will come out and say, oh yeah, I also felt it, and you're like, why didn't you talk about it? And
Do you
stuff.
think there's one more problem, like that we don't accept the things the way they are? We keep denying it all the time.
No, I don't think we deny it, but we don't want to openly talk about it. We are a very a society that is not what do I say, understanding. We're not an empathetic society. We're a very judgmental society, and we're also very reactive. We're very happy to point finger at somebody. We're very happy to do that rather than see how we can help them. We'd rather
Right.
talk about it and take fun in that
Right.
misery. So till
Right.
that changes, people will be more scared to talk about what they're going through.
Tell me about the trends. Like every day there's a new trend
Yeah.
coming in, and then it fades away.
Yeah. I learned from my teenage patients and my 20-year-old patients. They always talk to me about trends. So I have to keep abreast because of it. I think one of the things that people were talking about recent times has been skin cycling and stuff. And I was just laughing about it, you know, and there is cyclical therapy, right, for hair.
Right.
It's kind of like that, where if you want to give high potency actives and deliver it to the skin, but you want to do multiples, then you, instead of layering it, you cycle it. So what happens is, on let's say on Monday, let's say that you have acne prone skin, we'll probably end up using more of salicylic acid, like highly potent salicylic acid, and then we'll probably end up using tretinoin, which is a pharma drug, and or like a retinol if it's a OTC, and other actives for acne. Then the second day we'll probably use more of the brightening actives to elevate the marks and scars, as opposed to saying you use your acne serum, then you use a pigment serum, then you use this cream on the same day. You use it in a cyclical way.
Okay.
So the idea behind that was really, it was an influencer trend that started it. As a medical doctor, do I implement cycling? No. But what I do is I don't cycle the products, but I do like introduce products slowly into a skincare routine. I don't at one shot say start everything right now.
So you do get influenced by the trends sometimes?
No. I don't get influenced by trends at all. I get only influenced by evidence-backed science.
Yeah.
That's it. I read a lot of journals. I sit on journal ad boards and
But
stuff.
how about sometimes very pushy patients come and they say they have just seen this trend, and can you suggest something on the trend?
Sure. Like, let's say, like, if the trend is something to do with a procedure, if I find that procedure is suitable for
Helping
that patient,
people, yeah.
then yes, I will say yes, we can do this. But if I find no, then I'm a very staunch no. I'm a very strict no as a doctor. Do no harm is my motto.
So we in Fixderma we have just launched a product with white crystal tomato, also oral capsules,
Yeah.
and a topical application.
Tell me about that. You know, I've used oral white crystal tomatoes for a long time because it's a very potent antioxidant and stuff like that, right? But tell me about the skin side of it, because it's very interesting that you launched a topical product.
Yeah. So it's actually there's a reason behind it. People who have pigmentation all over the face, not because it's that's a skin type or that's a complexion, because of some side effects of some medicines or steroids or a blotchy skin, right, or too much of sun tanning. So that's an ideal product for people who can apply it, and we have seen a difference. So we did some consumer study before launching it, and we saw a difference in their skin tone as well as the complexion got a little better.
I think it's because it's a very potent antioxidant. It's a polyphenol family, if I'm not mistaken, and I think it has 2 phenols in there, polyphenol. So as a potent antioxidant, when you apply, right, it's like any other antioxidants, vitamin C and this and curcumin and all of that. But it's interesting that you have a skin receptor for it.
Right. And we are actually this time targeting men, because I have seen men are very, very careless with their, skincare. They hardly apply anything. And we have seen majority of men have dark skin on their temple area and cheek area. Yes.
Hits them.
Right. So we keep telling them that they should apply sunscreen, and the one which exists right now can also be corrected.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, men don't take care of their skin because they don't have estrogen. That's the truth. They shave every day.
Yeah.
And that itself is like exfoliation, right?
Yes.
So it's a trigger for skin cell renewal. That's why a 60-year-old man's skin is smoother most times than a 60-year-old woman.
But it is dehydrated, I have
of
noticed.
Course, it is dehydrated
because they exfoliate every day. So they should use a very good moisturizer.
They should. But they also have oil because of the testosterone. So they forget that they need hydration. They just think the moisture is more than enough. And of course, they are lazy about it.
Yeah.
But when they get into it, they're really loyalists. That is true. Yeah. Like when men get into their skincare program, they follow the instructions to a T and they're loyalists. Unlike women,
that's a good information.
Very influenced. Like if I've given a prescription, next month they would come back to me and say, my friend is using that and you gave her this. Why can't I use that? And I'm like,
and
because you're not your friend.
She's looking better than me.
And I'm like, you're not your friend. That's why it doesn't suit you.
Right. So Doc, let's wrap it up now. Tell us quickly, what are you using for your skin? It's glowing.
Thank you. I actually use skincare products.
And I'll say I use Fixderma products.
Why not?
Whether the skin is glowing or not.
Why not? Even you have great skin, Shaily. No, it's the truth. The reason is that I've always believed that, you have to be simple. And you have to do what is needed at that moment of time. My skincare routine is very simple. I use a pH balance cleanser. That's all I use. I don't use soap on my face because I don't want to remove the acidity in my skin. Second, I use a ceramide based moisturizer, which already has like niacinamide, vitamin E, hyaluronic acid built in, and a sunscreen with a built-in vitamin C. That's all I do. In the night, I use a moisturizer on a daily basis. That's it. And once in a while, I use a tretinoin, which is a prescriptive retin-A. I do use that, but I do have a skin that's on the thinner side. So if I use it more often, then I'll start peeling and flaking. So that's what I do topically, but I do take oral antioxidants. I've optimized my multivitamin status. So my vitamin D, my vitamin B, iron levels, all of this as at the optimum that it needs to be.
At the right
level,
Yes.
functionally.
Yes.
And then all my aging parameters like homocysteine or C-reactive proteins, these are at the lowest possible side. And that has to do with diet, exercise, and it also has to do with supplementation and IV. So I take an antioxidant IV once a month.
Wow.
Yeah. The reason being that I take it to boost the antioxidants in my body, because you need antioxidant protection. Because if at the end of the day, Shaily, we break everything down, it comes to ROS, reactive oxygen species, which is free radical damage. So from the inner cell to the outer cell, everything needs a antioxidant. So that's why I do once a month, I do an IV shot with that. So that's what I do.
Quite a
And that's
bit.
it.
So give us 5 quick tips from Chaitra Anand to my audience.
5 quick tips. All right.
Simple ones.
Very simple. So my first tip is invest into a good sunscreen. Check that your sunscreen has data behind it and it's effective, that the claim that they're making is actual and real. Because a lot of times people can have SPFs and it doesn't really have the SPF that it denotes. Second, get a health checkup once a year with your skin doctor or your aesthetic doctor, because it's important, skin being the largest organ. Third, when you invest into your moisturizer, it's not just about a shea butter or a cocoa butter, but it's also about barrier repair properties. So think of ceramides, think of squalene with your niacinamide, because that is going to repair. So go a little deeper with that. Number 4, don't believe everything you consume as content. Content is made for entertainment, and that's all it should be. You listen, laugh, and leave it there. Don't try and take tips from content unless it is scientifically backed. And 5th, you are the master of your destiny. So that means you're also the master of what you put. Garbage in, garbage out. So be careful.
Thank you so much. I think that was wonderful.
Thank you.
So thank you, doctor. I think it was a wonderful tips. Simple tips. I think everybody should get it. But I really doubt on that influencer part. Because people really get carried away.
They
right?
do. But
Yeah.
we can tell them as much as I can. At least I feel that it is important for me and my responsibility to give them awareness.
Thank you so much for coming. And I think our people, our audience would get some amazing tips.
Thank you so much for having me, and best wishes, Shaily,
Thank
on
you so
the
much.
white tomato range.
Thank you so much.